Making the headlines tonight. US Secretary of Commerce has said that the United States is looking to work more with ASEAN to build a reliance and greater security in the supply chain. US President Joe Biden has announced an incentive worth $150 million, hopes to raise billions more in private funds to deepen ASEAN-US relations and strengthen Asian-centred ties. At least one person confirmed to have COVID-19 has died in North Korea, and hundreds of thousands have shown fever symptoms, offering hints of potential dire scale of the country's first confirmed outbreak in the pandemic. And finally, SEA Games will begin with the spectacular opening ceremony. Let the games begin. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. My name is Anthony Ellis. US Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo has said that the United States is looking to work more with ASEAN to build a reliance and greater security in the supply chain. Speaking at the second ASEAN-US Summit on Thursday, the 12th of May 2022, Gina Raimondo said that what the United States is looking for after the COVID-19 crisis is an uninterrupted area of the supply chain. The United States is looking to work with ASEAN and ASEAN companies to build a greater resilience and security in our supply chain, she said. ASEAN member and chair of the G20 in 2022 Indonesian President Joko Widodo has said that Indonesia wants to ensure that the G20 will act as a catalyst for the global economic recovery, especially in developing countries. He said, "All of this requires a strong relationship between the government and the businesses community, and I hope that the CEOs of major US companies can develop practical cooperation in the G20 and the ASEAN, especially with Indonesia." The ASEAN-US Special Summit will be held on the 12th to 13th of May. This is the second special summit since 2016 and the first face-to-face meeting between the US and ASEAN leaders since 2017. US President Joe Biden has announced an incentive worth $150 million with hopes of raising billions more with private funds to deepen ASEAN-US relations and strengthen Asian-centred ties, as well as to expand the capacity of achieving common ASEAN goals. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has with the story.
President Joe Biden met with the leaders of the 10 ASEAN member countries on the afternoon of Thursday, 12th of May at the White House in Washington, D.C., where they held a photo session together. According to a statement issued by the White House on the 12th of May 2022, today, the United States and ASEAN will open a new era of partnership led by the United States Indo-Pacific Strategy and the ASEAN Vision in Indo-Pacific. The $150 million initiative will focus on 4 major projects, including 1. Accelerating climate action, sustainable development and prosperity. 2. Supporting education. 3. Expanding maritime cooperation. 4. Promoting global health and safety. Over the years, the United States has steadily deepened its partnership with Southeast Asia, providing more than $12.1 billion in economic, health, and security development assistance to its Southeast Asian allies and partners since 2002. This includes more than $1.4 billion in humanitarian aid. The Biden-Harris administration has proposed a 2023 fiscal year budget of more than $800 million in bilateral assistance for ASEAN partners and more than $25 million to deepen relations with ASEAN and enhance ASEAN's ability to address challenges in common areas of concern. The United States and Southeast Asia also benefit from their trade relations. ASEAN has become the world's 4th largest market, and the United States is ASEAN's largest source of foreign direct investment, with bilateral trade exceeding $360 billion by 2020. The relationship between the United States and ASEAN is bound by the special friendship shared by the 1 billion people that make up both sides. The two regions have expressed a commitment to deepening people-to-people contacts as marked by the organization of 7,000 programs at 83 American spaces in ASEAN. The 155,000 alumni of the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative and the nearly 6 million U.S. visas, including student visas, issued to Southeast Asian travelers since 2010. At the ASEAN-US Summit held via video conference in October 2021, President Biden announced an unprecedented $102 million investment in U.S.-ASEAN relations to expand U.S.-ASEAN cooperation on health, climate action, science and innovation, trade facilitation, education, and more. Dekanin, EAC News.
US President Joe Biden has offered condolences to the Prime Minister Hun Sen on the recent passing of his older brother Hun Neng. He gave his condolences after delivering his welcoming speech for the ASEAN-US Summit on the afternoon of Thursday, the 12th of May 2022 in Washington, D.C. EAC News reporter Darshana Gujran has the story.
Prime Minister Hun Sen wrote on his Facebook page that even though his brother passed away without being able to say goodbye to his wife, children, and relatives, he received messages of condolence from the King and the Queen Mother, and the King also posthumously granted Hun Neng with the title of Samdech. Leaders at all levels, both national and subnational, including armed forces of all levels, sent condolences, paid their respects, and also attended the funeral processions for Hun Neng. Monks and members of the general public have also shown compassion for Hun Neng and Prime Minister Hun Sen's family. The Prime Minister added that when he came to the United States to attend the ASEAN-US Summit, ASEAN leaders gave him their condolences, and the program coordinator of the meeting between ASEAN leaders and US business leaders also extended his condolences during the meeting. Prime Minister Hun Sen said that what surprised him the most was receiving condolences from US President Joe Biden. The Prime Minister wrote, "I give my condolences on the passing of Your Excellency's brother. These are the first words he said to me after he read his speech as the President of the United States, after I read my speech as the ASEAN chair, and after the President of Indonesia read his speech as the ASEAN-US facilitator. He is a very emotional person. He has lost his wife and children, so he understands my sadness. This is what he told me." According to Prime Minister Hun Sen, the United States of America has expressed its appreciation for the Prime Minister's efforts in coming to the United States to contribute to a successful outcome for the ASEAN-US Special Summit. The Prime Minister concluded his post on Facebook with a mention of his brother, writing, "May your soul rest in peace." Darshana Gauchan, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has requested US lobby firm Atkin Gump to lobby the United States to have a better understanding of Cambodia, especially regarding long-standing misunderstandings between the two countries, such as on the Ream Naval Base as the Cambodian suspension of military drills with the countries. During a meeting with Atkin Gump, Representative Scott David Parvin on Thursday, 12th of May, Prime Minister Hun said that Cambodia-US relations have improved both diplomatically and economically. However, a number of long-standing misunderstandings have affected this relationship. The Prime Minister urged the representative to help clear up such misunderstandings by lobbying to explain Cambodia's position better to the United States. Scott David Parvin confirmed that Prime Minister Hun said that when we previously met with representatives of the Cambodian embassy in the United States, he reported that his firm had been lobbying to build a good relations with the United States. He also confirmed to the Prime Minister that his company has worked with key members of the US government, including from the Congress to the Senate, to encourage the United States to better understand Cambodia. The minister attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim Horn, told reporters after the meeting that the engagement with their lobbying firm is to improve relations between the two countries, especially to make the United States better understand Cambodia's position in this dual work between the United States and the ASEAN framework, and especially regarding Cambodia's position on Russia's aggression against Ukraine, trade, climate change, and humanitarian efforts. In response to an email request for a comment, Dr. Ilse Paul, an associate professor at Arizona State University and expert political science and international affairs, stated to EAC News that he does not believe meeting the lobbyists in this way can particularly help improve relations with the US, saying that Cambodia should rather focus in distancing itself from China. "It's totally useless," he said. "What the Prime Minister needs to do is tear up the agreement he made with China and open up the Ream Naval Base for any other inspections without limits." Regarding his opinion on how Cambodia should go about improving its relations with the US, Dr. Ilse Paul said, "Stop paying lobbyists and work on real issues. Distance itself from China and bring back democracy, human rights, and the freedom of the people of Cambodia who have been deprived for too long. If we are not careful, we will have much more destruction of democracy, abuse of human rights, and unfreedom, as well as we had that post-UNTAC period when there was modest democracy, respect for human rights, and a modicum of freed up until quicker in 2018 when all ended." Atkin Gump Strass Hoa of Field LLP, headquartered in Washington, D.C., is an international law firm and the largest lobbying firm in the United States. The Cambodian government hired the company to lobby the US government for about $720,000 a year, according to documents released on 21st of January 2022. Prime Minister Hun Sen also met with the president of the PR firm, Corvus Communications, on Thursday morning, where he said that the current situation in Cambodia is unlike the opposition's media markets it out to be, and urged American media to visit Cambodia and write about the truth of the situation in the country. In response, Corvus Communications pledged it's disseminated the truth about Cambodia, especially related to the country's development and progress. Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged the media to disseminate the truth about Cambodia to the world, not only to see the opposition media, and to elevate Cambodia as a whole. The Prime Minister also urges the US media to visit Cambodia and write about the facts. EAC News reporter Decca Nin has more details.
During a meeting and discussion with the president of the public relations firm Corvus Communication, Michael Petruzzello, on Thursday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that the current situation in Cambodia is unlike what the opposition's media makes it out to be. He urged American media to visit Cambodia and write about the truth of the situation in the country. The Prime Minister also mentioned that some international institutions always take superficial information in their assessments, which leads to an inaccurate evaluation of the country because the information used does not fully or properly reflect reality in Cambodia. He said, Cambodia has suffered a lot of injustice from the dissemination of false information, which does not reflect the real situation in Cambodia. Corvus Communications has pledged to disseminate the truth about Cambodia, especially related to development and progress in Cambodia. The PR firm's president emphasized that Cambodia has seen a lot of progress, growth, and success in development, and it is very important for them to work to promote the reality of the situation in the country. He further added that the media is now widespread and curious to know about Cambodia, and said that his team has previously visited Cambodia and seen the progress in the country firsthand. He said this progress has also been shown through the media as well, and Cambodia should continue to spread the word about its progress. He continued that in order to respond to the world about the reality of Cambodia, he would like to see Cambodia increase the training of Cambodian spokespersons and representatives in all fields, to increase the country's ability to present and respond to relevant issues on the world stage. In response, Prime Minister Hun Sen acknowledged the importance of training spokespersons and stated that Cambodia is promoting the training of spokespersons to be more capable in providing actual information about Cambodia's progress. He said Cambodia does not want the media to disseminate what is beyond the reality on the ground and to only broadcast the country's real-life situation. Dekanin, EAC News.
Last night, the SEA Games began with a spectacular open ceremony. Cambodia so far has won a bronze and have kickbox finalist competition tonight. Bowling and Petricon also in the semi-finals. Unfortunately, Cambodia has some close losses too, with under-23 football lost to Singapore 1-0 and the men's 3x3 basketball preliminary Vietnam defeated Cambodia 22-11. Vietnam is leading the medal total with 15 gold, with Malaysia 11 gold medals, Indonesia with 5 gold, with Singapore, Philippines, Thailand and Myanmar all with 1 gold medals, and Cambodia is also on the medal tally with a bronze. Cambodia has reported no new COVID-19 cases for the 6th day straight. There have been 3 patient recoveries and no new deaths. The total number of Omicron cases in Cambodia stands at 15,821, with 1,362 imported and 14,459 local cases. Cambodia COVID-19 case tally is stalled at 136,262. The death toll stands at 3,056. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic reached Cambodia is 133,189, and the tally for imported cases remains at 21,219.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
At least one person confirmed to have COVID-19 has died in North Korea, and hundreds of thousands have shown fever symptoms. State media said on Friday the 13th of May, offering hints of the potentially dire scale of the country's first confirmed outbreak of the pandemic.
At least 6 people who showed fever symptoms died, with one of those cases confirmed to have contracted the Omicron variant of the virus, official KCNA news agency reported. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un visited the Antivirus Command Center on Thursday, 12th May, to check the situation and responses after declaring a gravest state of emergency and ordering a national lockdown on Thursday. North Korea had said the outbreak began in the capital of Pyongyang in April. State media did not elaborate on the cause of the outbreak, but the city hosted several massive public events on April 15th and 25th, including a military parade and large gatherings where most people did not wear masks. Nationally, there were 18,000 newly reported cases with fever symptoms in the span of one day on May 12th, and about 187,800 people are being treated and isolated so far. Out of 6 people who died, one of them was confirmed COVID-19 positive.
Let's have a look at today's finance. The CXX index is currently 505.77 points, 1.21 points, or 0.24%. The daily exchange rate is 4,060 Khmer Ringgit to the US dollar. Now let's have a look what else is happening in finance around the world.
World equities fell on Thursday to an 18-month low, with markets dogged by fears high inflation would persist and force central banks to keep tightening monetary policy. In Europe, economic worries were exacerbated by a German warning that Russia was now using energy supplies as a weapon. Europe's continent-wide Stoxx 600 index was down 0.75%. MSCI's gauge of stocks across the globe was down 0.69% as of 5:09 p.m. Eastern Time. That flagship global index is nearly 20% lower for the year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 103.81 points, or 0.33%, to 31,730.3. The S&P 500 lost 5.1 points, or 0.13%, to 3,930.08, and the Nasdaq Composite added 6.73 points, or 0.06%, to 11,370.96. The dollar index rose 0.711% after touching 104.92, its highest since December 12, 2002. The euro was down 0.02% to $1.0377 after falling to 1.0352, its lowest since January 3, 2017. Oil prices settled, mixed on supply fears due to the pending European Union ban on Russian oil. Brent crude fell 6 cents to settle at $107.45 a barrel. WTI crude rose 42 cents, or 0.4%, to settle at $106.13. Asian shares bounced on Friday, but were set for a second straight weekly loss and remained near June 2020 lows, while the dollar hovered near 20-year highs as investors digested worries about strong inflation and tightening central bank policy. After sharp losses a day earlier, Asian shares rallied on Friday. European equities were also set for a firmer open, with pan-region Euro Stoxx 50 futures up 1.08%, German DAX futures up 0.93%, and FTSE futures gaining 0.98%. In afternoon trade, MSCI's broadest index of Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan was up around 1.8% from Thursday's 22-month closing low, trimming its losses for the week to less than 3%. Australian shares gained 1.93%, while Japan's Nikkei stock index jumped 2.64%. In China, the blue-chip CSI 300 index was up 0.61%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose 2.22%. Cryptocurrency Bitcoin also turned higher, cracking through $30,000 after the collapse of Terra USD, a so-called stablecoin, drove it to a 16-month low of around $25,400 on Thursday. In commodities markets, oil prices were higher against the backdrop of a pending European Union ban on Russian oil, but were still set for their first weekly loss in 3 weeks, hit by concerns over inflation and China's COVID lockdowns slowing global growth. U.S. crude ticked up 1.32% to $107.53 a barrel, and global benchmark Brent crude was up 1.6% at $109.17 per barrel. Spot gold, which had been driven to a 3-month low by the soaring dollar, was up 0.16% at $1,824.61 per ounce. That's all for the latest news on finance. Tune in tomorrow for more.
Now let's have a look at the weather and what you can expect for tomorrow. And finally, the 31st Southeast Asian Games kicked off with a spectacular opening ceremony in Hanoi, Vietnam on Thursday, 12th of May, after being delayed for a year due to COVID pandemic.
With Vietnamese President Nguyen Xuan Phuc in attendance, many spectators and athletes were without face masks as the Vietnam government eased COVID-19 measures in the lead up to the Games. The opening ceremony included 1,300 athletes and officials from the 11 participating nations, with more than 5,000 athletes set to compete across 40 sports. The 31st SEA Games is hosted in Hanoi and 11 surrounding cities until the 23rd of May, with Vietnam hosting for a second time since 2003. Next year, the 32nd SEA Games and 12th ASEAN Para Games will be hosted by Cambodia.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup here on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, check our website eacnews.asia or search EAC News on Smart TV, Telegram or your favourite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We'll see you then.